Imagine, if you will, a group of people so despicable that they have to make laws in someone else's home that make it illegal to hate them. When it comes to freedom, autonomy, your ability to defend yourself and even exist, hate is more important than love. In fact, hate is the very central pillar of freedom. Now, if you don't love anything, then you're already dead. Outside of freedom, love is more important than hate. But you can't have one without the other. If you love, you hate. If you hate, you love. There's a lot of toxic, bitter people that seem like they hate most or things or everything, but they don't. What they are is jealous. I'll explain why hate is the central pillar of freedom. If someone says, you can't like this or you can't like that, someone who's repressive, that's like cutting down the forest to the bare bones of the ground, a barren ground. But at least in that scenario, there's dormant seeds underground. The forest can regrow, and it will regrow the moment it's given a chance. You can cut a forest down many times, and it's very resistant to dying because it will keep growing back. Eventually, at some point, it won't, but it's very hard to keep a forest down. But when you say no, when you ban no, you lose the capacity to say yes. No is your, like, if you ban no, you can't choose. If you ban yes, you know what, you can still fight back. You can still say no to those who are trying to ban yes. You can say no to whatever you choose. No is the central pillar of freedom. And when they ban hate speech, or use the silly term hate speech, that's a good thing. Hate speech is a good thing. It's the fundamental, central pillar of freedom, of every value that exists. If you love something, you sure as hell hate the enemies of that something that are trying to take that something away from you or destroy it. And if you don't hate, then you don't love. You know, tell the difference between, is easy way to tell the difference between lifeless vampires. Not the mythological kind, although if they could suck your blood, they would. And far worse. In fact, they do far worse in dark corners. But ask someone to define love and hate. See what their answer is and see what you tell me if they're alive or not. I want you to take a note right now. Just by listening to me speak right now. Listening to me speak right now. How do you feel inside? Like, I'm saying all these nasty things, but do you feel a sense of a threat from me? Or do you sense relief, stability, safety, that a threat is identified? Then you want to listen to all these creepy hate speech people who sound like Hannibal Lecter, Bill Gates, Sam Altman, Lot of these kinds of people, if you'd call them people. And then, after listening to them, I want you to take a snapshot of how you feel inside. The threat response. The Mark Zuckerberg response, right? There's something off about them. They're like a corpse walking around with its head chopped off. That shouldn't be happening. What's moving it is a serious threat. That is not human. That is not alive. Something is moving the puppet strings. Something lifeless. Something that has no remote concept of any kind of value. Something very alien and foreign in a very malignant sense. Some people might even call it demonic. I don't know what that is, but it's not human. Maybe a man, but it's not human. These are the people crying hate speech. And they can't define a single word they weaponize. You see, when they say hate speech and they keep repeating this nonsense and stripping of your most central fundamental right, they're triggering a threat response. Because hate is associated with a threat response, a threat to something you love. Of course, if they ban your ability to say no, then they can decide what you like. Or you can like this, you can like whatever you want, but they can make you like something else. But you like vanilla ice cream. Oh well, you must like chocolate better. Otherwise, your hate speech. You're not allowed to say no. They can choose for you. Yeah. You see this putty cat here? He's got a giant sore on the side of his face. I had to have him have it shaved off. A big cyst. But look how happy he is. He's pulling his little head off. This putty cat knows what love is. They would think he's only sticking around for the food. I think we both know better. In fact, he came in today. He's not even hungry. He just wants to lie down and chill with me. Ain't ya? Eh? You see, what these people, for lack of a better term, are doing when they repeat this hate speech nonsense, they're triggering a threat response. If you hate something, or there is a sense of hatred without context, and you don't know, hate is associated with a threat response, and they're just subconsciously programming you to reject things. They're not just saying you can't say no anything. In fact, they're banning no except for when they want you to say no under their instructions subconsciously. They're triggering a subconscious threat response in you, a repulsion, a rejection, and aversion to something. This is how they stop you from thinking. When you're faced with obvious truths and you turn away and you don't even know you're doing it, it's because they programmed you this way. That's hate speech. Threat response. Avoid. That's what they say is hate. It doesn't. You have no thought or reasoning behind it. They appeal to primal instinct. Threat response. To bypass reason and shut not just your actions, but your very thoughts, everything. Realize the kind of tools your enemy is using in your own home. Understand who and what your enemy is. There needs to be laws, international laws, that override any national law. In fact, That's the whole point of international law. There's a certain minimum standard that every legitimate country or nation or whatever you want to call them have to abide by. Outside of that, you do what you want. But there are certain fundamental things, certain fundamental standards that you must, at the very least, meet. This is below that. There needs to be the enforcement of common sense international laws that override every nation, every country, and every one of them who tries, every corporation too, especially, who tries to pull this hate speech stuff, should be seen as the highest level type of threat, malignant threat. Remember that they call it hate speech, but they don't actually hate anything. They're just jealous. Jealous of what they can never have. They're like cups with the bottom cut out. They will never remotely understand values. They mimic values, and the only code they have is basic biological instinct, and that's all they understand. They don't understand half of the alphabet letters of life. More than half. They got maybe 6 out of 26 letters of the alphabet. That's all they see. They can't see anything else. They know it's there. They see the signs of it, but they don't directly see it. Just like a vampire that can't see itself in the mirror. They can't see themselves. They can't see most things. It's invisible. Most things are invisible to them. That's why they will never have an advantage, and they're so easy to defeat. They're very simple. 2D cardboard cutouts. But there needs to be international laws against this kind of threat to punish and make an example of them in a lesson that will never be forgotten, lesson and deterrent that will never be forgotten to the end of time. Because if it isn't, they will destroy everything good in the world. Which leads me to one of their preferred tactics. The values that exist in this world, anything of value, they can't truly take that away from you. All they can do is convince you into throwing it away. Willingly giving it up. When you willfully give up your free will, you can't get it back. They want to piss you off. They want to make you bitter with jealousy and a not necessarily hatred, but that threat response. They want to cause you to be so driven by revenge that you forget what you started out fighting for. And that's how they take away whatever you're fighting for. Even if you haven't found something to fight for, live for, and die for, the very search for that is such a value in itself that will lead you to eventually finding other things. But they want to take all of that away from you, and the only way they can is what's said, letting the sun go down in your anger. Anger is not a bad thing. Hatred is not a bad thing. These are very good things. But they tap into your primal instinct in order to try to convince you into throwing away the good things in the world and going after revenge. The punishments and deterrents, they're very extreme ones that must happen to anyone who plays along with this hate speech nonsense. They're there to protect the future and to protect future victims, and to give value to the victims that were not saved to this point. They'll never understand these values. They try and take them away. When they convince you into taking a path of revenge, that's when you die and you become one of them. It's not hatred, it's bitter jealousy. It's different. Hate is the central pillar, not only of freedom, but of human rights. They can take away your ability to say yes. They can take away your ability to even speak. And they can shadow ban you from absolutely everywhere, like I am. But so long as you still have the power to say no, you can fight back. You still have a choice. You lose your capacity to say no, and you lose absolutely everything. Respond accordingly.